Are you a lifelong fan of General Hospital?
Are you a new fan who wants to know more about the history of the show?
Do you enjoy talking about the show with others?
Do you find yourself yelling at the TV?
Is your self-care an hour a day in Port Charles?
If so, we invite you to join hosts
Amanda Kimmel
and Shannon Coach at the place where all the hidden conversations take place and secrets are revealed.
Meet us at Pier 54,
a General Hospital fan podcast.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the Port Charles 411, where we are talking with Cari Shayne and Amanda can't talk.
Yes, I still am like in shock. She was so nice. She totally appreciated the fact that I couldn't talk for a minute and wasn't sure what I was asking. She was so sweet.
So how do you feel? I'm going to interview you
now.
Oh
my goodness.
How do you feel? Like, you just met your hero. You just met someone that she's why you got into the show.
Yes.
So
yes. She was exactly what I expected. So
that's great.
Yes. Just very down to earth and it was wonderful. Oh my gosh.
That's great.
So I will be smiling for the next 3 weeks. Oh my goodness.
Perfect. Yeah. So enjoy our conversation with Cari and we'll be back after.
Hi. Hello.
How are you?
You guys are sideways for some reason.
You're sideways too.
Am I?
Yes.
Okay, let's see if we can fix this. I don't know.
Are we right?
Well, now you're right side. Am I right side up?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go with that. Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you? Which one's Shannon and which one's Amanda?
I'm Shannon.
You're Shannon?
Amanda.
Yep.
Okay. Happy birthday, Amanda.
Oh, thank you.
I heard it's your birthday.
Yes. Thank you.
How are you guys?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
How are you feeling?
So much better.
Good.
I'm happy to report that, I know you probably have heard like the COVID vaccine will take you down for the second vaccine really takes you down. But I was only feeling bad for about 12 hours. So
good. That's good.
Yeah.
Did it on a weekend. So
yes, bounced back quick. So that was a good thing.
Well, that's awesome. You were able to get it and, hopefully it continues, so.
Yes. Hopefully we can get everybody vaccinated very, very quickly. And that would be a very, very good thing.
Love your mug. World's best nurse.
Thank you. Sweet friends of mine that gave that to me for Christmas. I love it.
We're actually just talking about that, how you decided to actually get into the medical field years later after General Hospital. What got you into that?
I know it was quite a departure. Because I had never done anything else in my life besides just being an actor. So, I'd started so young. It was a combination of a couple things, mostly because my son was diagnosed with autism and he just required a ton of attention. And at the time I was working a lot, but I was working a lot like in different countries. So I was going to, New Zealand or Canada or China even. I shot a series in China. So for my son, he really, really needed that stability of just me being home. And my husband's an actor too. So the uncertainty of where we were going to be became an issue. And I had always kind of thought before I had kids that I would just be able to pick him up, take him with me, and, he'd be a set baby and everything would be fine. But it really didn't turn out that way. And, for autism, it ends up being very important that they have a really structured life and can, anticipate things and be able to be there for therapy. So that was a big part of it. And then I also had been in the industry for a long time and, we had hit a writer's strike and there was a whole lot of other things going on where people weren't working as much. And so there was kind of a lull in projects and doing things. So I just decided it was time to jump out for a bit and try something different. And I had always been really passionate about women's health in general. And so I kind of started looking into that. And my original idea was I was going to go into occupational therapy. And then throughout school, I ended up finding that I loved the human body and, the science of it all. And somebody talked me into thinking about nursing and there I went.
So we have something in common. My daughter's autistic.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I was very excited when I read that.
Yeah.
Because actually it sounds like, because What year was he diagnosed?
So he was born in 2004. We got a diagnosis when he was about 3.
Okay.
So yeah, around 2000.
She was almost 6.
Yeah.
But
wow.
We were having, it's look into the girl side of it. It's misdiagnosed, totally missed it's underdiagnosed. It's one of the number one things that I've been told when not so much anymore, but especially she's 17 now. But back when she was diagnosed, it was 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So many people said to me, but she's a girl.
Really?
And I'm like, oh, yes. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a neurological thing, not a gender thing. So, not so much anymore, but like back then we did, but I was working 60 hours a week in corporate. I went to college and, that's what I was doing. I thought I was going to climb up the corporate ladder, lost my job because of the recession and everything. Best thing that ever happened, because I was able to, take that step back. I wasn't jet setting or in other countries, but
right.
You're really able to take that step back and realize, we had to do the in-home therapy. She's in a private school and and now I'm doing podcasting and I'm in real estate. So,
that's awesome
that way.
It is. Life would not be, exciting if not for all the changes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's been a good thing. All right, it sounds like our kids are the same age. So my son's just a year younger, and he's 16. He just turned 16. So.
And how's he doing? Like, is he going to drive?
He's doing great. Not yet. He has a car, and it's sitting in the driveway, but not even a permit. So he just has no interest whatsoever. No, doesn't seem to really care. I'm like, come on, buddy, you really need to get your license.
Yeah, she doesn't want anything to do with it either. She's afraid she'll crash. No. But I'm like, hey, you guys have Uber and Lyft now, so
it's true. Yeah,
we are where we are, and it's good.
Yep. Yeah. We get to keep them a little closer to us for the time being. That's how I look at it.
You guys are nice letting them drive. I wouldn't let mine drive until they were 18. So
really,
yeah.
Oh wow. Now, where are you guys located?
Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Oh, okay. Yeah. I was born in Pennsylvania.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time there growing up. My grandparents lived in a town called Harleysville, which is right outside of Philadelphia.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time in that area. But yeah, I was born in like Lancaster County somewhere.
Okay. With the Amish and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. We lived with Amish people for a little while.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't remember it, but I hear stories.
What brought you out to California?
Oh, I have moved everywhere. I was a military brat for a while, and my dad was in the Air Force, so we moved around a lot. So Pennsylvania was a short stop on my road of life. So aside from visiting there, but I primarily grew up in Missouri, and then when I got into acting, I moved to New York City and I lived there for a little while. I finished high school there, and then I came to California for work as an actor. So, and I've been here ever since, coming up on 30 years.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's crazy.
Whenever you were nursing, did you have patients that were like, oh my gosh, you're off of TV?
Yes, a lot, actually, because I don't know, for whatever reason, I guess the demographic that I was serving when I was working in a hospital was they're just big soap fans. And so, yeah, I got a lot of that, especially from the parents, because I was in labor and delivery. So like the parents of my patients tended to be like GH watchers, and it was kind of funny sometimes.
Well, and you've done stuff General Hospital too. You've been on Criminal Minds, so you're probably getting all different genres. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, primarily TV, but yeah.
Did you watch GH before you went on the
show? No. Funny enough, I've never been much of a soap fanatic. Like I remember watching it a few times if I was homesick from school. But I would watch Days of Our Lives. So that was about the extent of my. But what I did watch on Days was I watched the Kayla and Patch storyline on occasion. And then, so when Mary Beth Evans ended up coming on to General Hospital, I was like, oh my God. It was so exciting. I used to watch her when I was in high school. So that was kind of fun. But no, I never really watched.
And Stephen Nichols wound up coming to GH too.
Yes, he did. I don't think he was there when I was there. I think he came on later, but yeah. Yeah. And
they
then I
wound up
guess
together.
oh, that's right. Yeah. I watched maybe General Hospital a couple of times because Jack Wagner, do you remember Jack Wagner who played Frisco Jones? He was from my hometown. And so I was from a really small town in Washington, Missouri. So that was kind of a big deal. So when when he was on, we were all like, ooh, somebody from our town is on TV. It was kind of an exciting thing. So I guess I watched maybe a couple of times then just to see him.
So when you were doing the whole love scenes, who would you have had Karen end up with?
Oh, and I think Karen ended up, right with who she needed to be. And that was one of the reasons why I left the show when I did. Okay. Because there had been so much buildup with Karen and Jagger and, and then they're together and they were apart and they were together and they were apart. We felt like when Antonio decided to leave, and I was ready to. I had been, I'd been there for 2 years and it was the first job I ever had as an actor. So I was really eager to get out there and do some other things. So when he said he was leaving, I was like, let's go out together because I think it would serve the storyline best for them to, for that audience to have that payoff, Mm-hmm. I thought it made a lot of sense. So we sat down with the producers and we talked to them about it and they agreed. And so that's why they ended up writing it that way. Otherwise, had I stayed on, they had brought from my recollection from so many years ago, I believe they brought on Ricky Martin for my character. We were supposed to then go into a new romance, but they brought him on. And then as that storyline evolved, if you remember, he was an intern in the hospital or something like that. And I met him there and we had this thing where he was helping me with patients and this pregnant girl came in who was speaking Spanish and I didn't understand her but he did. And so that was supposed to sort of be the beginning of a romance. But when we had decided to leave together, then they kind of shifted the storyline to have the payoff for the audience of having us get married right off into the sunset on the motorcycle.
Yeah, right.
Well, you guys had through enough trauma and enough, rough stuff. You guys deserved the.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it worked best for the story to do it that way. And I think it did.
And it's crazy to think that you were only on for 2 years because you did a lot. And you're Sonny's first girlfriend.
Yes.
And yes. I mean, that's quite the feat now that he's
still there.
He's still there. And there's a joke that like any woman he looks at is going to wind up pregnant. So got a ton of kids.
That's funny.
How did you prepare for, you had the role as the stripper and an addict at the same time and dealing with Rhonda as your mom and all that, how did you even prepare? And it was your first role? I didn't know that.
My first role ever. Yeah.
So how?
And I was so young too. So I didn't have a really, I didn't have an arsenal of life experience either. So I really had to dig deep on that one. And I did a lot of research. I started going to AA meetings just to kind of learn what it was like. And then some Al-Anon meetings to learn what it was like to be, a child of an alcoholic. And then when the stripping stuff started happening, I started going to strip clubs. And, I think there was a story published one time that, I was seen in New York City going to strip clubs with my mom. It was kind of funny, but I used to take her with me because I was only 19 at the time.
Yeah.
And so like me walking into strip clubs was a little daunting, and then I interviewed with a few of them. Some of them were kind enough to talk to me and I was able to pull a lot from that. So yeah, I just had to kind of draw from wherever I could find access to the information and read a lot of books. I did that too. Yeah.
Did you know whenever you got the job that they were going to go into the whole molestation storyline?
No, I had no idea. Initially the storyline was the love triangle with, Jason and Antonio, or Jason and Jagger. And then, my mom I was the girl from the wrong side of the tracks and Jason was the, wealthy guy and how that whole dynamic worked. And I think they saw that there wasn't really any longevity to that story. And, how long could we really go on with the triangle thing? So I remember it was after some awards show, and I showed up looking very slutty. And I remember Wendy saying to me something like, kind of like this look on you. And Wendy Rich, the executive producer. And so from that, they started formulating Karen's like a different identity for Karen, and took that. It ended up being the storyline of sexual abuse storyline and the stripping and the whole deal. And I loved it because it was just so, it gave me so much to do. And it was such a great storyline that I could dig my teeth into, but it also meant a lot to me because I knew it was such a real thing. And it was amazing how many people ended up reaching out saying, hey, this happened to me too. And, telling me their stories. And it ended up being quite a platform for me to get behind, and ended up doing a lot of work with Child Help USA after that and becoming their spokesperson, and opened my eyes a lot. So it was really a very meaningful storyline. I was proud to have been a part of it.
I don't want to say that's awesome, but that's, you're lucky that you had the opportunity to experience it that way.
Yeah.
Rather than,
right.
You got to really, quote, really experience it without having to.
Yeah. Yeah. I just have an understanding of what people go through.
Right.
In that way. I mean, it's devastating. It devastates lives, when something like that happens. But, felt lucky to be able to put that out there in a way that people who had been through it could relate to it and maybe not feel so alone,
Yeah.
Don't look at me.
I love your podcast, by the way.
Thank you.
I hadn't heard about it. And, and then when you guys contacted me, I gave it a listen and I was like, oh, you guys do such a great job.
Oh, thank you.
And honestly, it kind of took me down memory lane because, I don't remember a lot of this stuff. I don't even, you guys were talking about storylines and stuff that my character did. And I was like, oh, I didn't even remember that. That's so funny.
That's
kind of
awesome.
A nice little archive.
Well, so I have to confess something. I started watching after you were gone.
Oh, you did?
So you were kind of Amanda's.
You were my favorite. You were. I hate to fangirl out on you, but yes, you were my favorite. That was, right at the age that I was getting addicted to it. I was like 13 and you were on and you were just so pretty and Jagger was so hot. Like there was no way to not want to watch him. And the storyline was just, it was great. There was no way to not want to watch it and see what was going to happen next. And you really did a good job with the storyline. But yeah, anytime that we talk about old stuff, I'm like, oh, Karen and Jagger, is that what we're going to go back to? Because that was the best.
Well, I'm just thrilled that anybody even remembers anything from that long ago. I mean, my gosh, it was almost, I was trying to think how long it was since I've been on. I think it was like, I started 29 years ago on the show. So yeah, it was quite a while ago. So the fact that you remember makes my heart warm.
It has been fantastic though, because I've been able to go back and watch them. And that was, so you were mentioned in, was that October maybe? Mm-hmm. You were mentioned because Scotty got mad at Sonny and blamed him for
it. Really?
You know that you're dead?
Yes, I do know that. Yeah.
You're dead. Well, we talked to Sean Kanan and he didn't know that he was a grandfather. So I figured.
Oh, you're kidding. Oh my God, that's funny.
So just want to make sure we weren't doing a spoiler for you. But people were like, what is he talking about? And so that's when we decided to do just the pill story. And that was a lot. And it was the first time I'd ever watched it. And then I hadn't watched it yet and it was fantastic. And then I've watched Stone's death. Mm-hmm. Like I've watched like the last 2 episodes. Mm-hmm. You see them all the time, Yeah. And I had never watched the whole Stone storyline. And then we did that one and I bawled like the whole way through.
Yeah. So, that was quite a storyline.
And YouTube is fantastic. It definitely gives us a great chance to be able to experience that stuff. The thing I love the most about, like, we both started about 2 years apart, but there's things that, she grew up watching you. I started with Lucky and Liz, and that was
right.
It's fun.
Yeah. YouTube's, an amazing thing. And I'm, for a while, I used to keep all of these videotapes of stuff that I recorded from the show because I wanted to preserve it somehow, and finally, after I moved them from house to house, I finally was like, you know what? They're all on YouTube. I don't need these anymore. So it's nice that, that there's that archive there. And I think maybe that's the reason why people still kind of remember some older storylines on the show, because there's still access to that, which is really great.
You want to tell her about your VHS tape that you found last year?
I was cleaning out my basement a couple months ago, and I found this old VHS tape, and it's like Karen and Jagger do not erase, and I was like, I still have this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so speaking of YouTube, you have a food allergy YouTube channel?
Yeah. So my daughter, it's not very active right now with the pandemic. We haven't been getting together and recording anything, but my daughter she's not allergic, but she has a genetic condition that causes her to not do well with gluten products and dairy.
Okay.
So she went gluten-free, dairy-free. And as a way of kind of helping her come to terms with that, because when she was diagnosed with that, she was only 7, I believe. So, and that's hard at that time. She's like, why can't I eat what all the other kids eat and all this stuff? But one of her best friends also had allergies, and, she was allergic to dairy and nuts. And so, they started playing around one day and cooking in the kitchen and trying to figure out what they could make. And I recorded them on video and I cut it together and I made a little show for them just for fun. And then it took off. They loved it. And it was such a great way for them to deal with it. It was like a great way for them to cope with the fact that they were a little bit different than their friends, but there was still a way that they could make it okay. And they had a blast with it. And so did I, to be honest.
I'm sure that they've helped other kids because they're not alone. If each of them found each other in such a small area, I mean, there's probably a lot more out there that they've helped too.
We would think, but surprisingly, we didn't get the viewership that, we were hoping maybe they would, because mostly I just don't know a thing about YouTube, and it was all me, and, so maybe one day it'll catch on. All their videos are still out there. So
talking about like being a fangirl and being excited about meeting different people, how was it for you being on Party of 5 and 90210? Because those were the upcoming, amazing shows for you to get parts in that.
I was a big fan of 90210 because I was still in high school when it first premiered. And so that was so exciting. And it came out the year that I moved to Los Angeles, and it came out right before I moved to Los Angeles. So it gave me this sort of glossy idea of like what it might be like to live in California. It was exciting when I got to join the cast, and even though it was like, I think 10 seasons in before I finally joined, but yeah, it was really cool. And everybody was so lovely. And it was funny because, I showed up and my first day on set, Tori Spelling was there, and she was like, oh my God, I watch you on General Hospital. So it made me feel really comfortable because she was kind of a fan of mine as I was her. And then Vanessa Marcel was there too at the same time.
Oh, right.
So
I didn't even think about
together.
that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. So we've crossed paths a few times, and we didn't have any scenes together, but
no,
we were working on the show at the same time.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun.
That's fun.
It was a lot of fun.
I hadn't thought about that because I didn't watch, like when I watched Now 210, I didn't know that you were Karen.
Right. And then Party of 5, that was a whole different experience because I joined in the very beginning of the series. So nobody knew what Party of 5 was. And it took a number of years before it really took off and found an audience. So I joined in the first episode, well, the second episode, because the pilot was the first episode. And then when they came to series, they brought me on, and I played Nev Campbell's best friend for the first 2 seasons. So, and it was so much fun. Such a great cast. We were all young, and we would do things every weekend together. And it was always like, oh, dinner at Matthew's house, or, oh, dinner at Nev's house. Or, we were always kind of bouncing around, but we're always together. And that ended after the show got popular, and we couldn't really go anywhere then. With people just sort of descending on all of us. So, but it was great while it lasted. It's a lot of fun.
That was such a good show. Did you watch
it? Was.
I didn't.
You didn't? Oh my gosh.
Okay. You need to catch up on that.
Okay.
You do.
I will watch Party of Five.
I watched it from the beginning and I was excited because I was like, look, that's Karen. I was all interested. So
I will watch it.
So good.
It was such a great show.
They rebooted it. It was such a good show.
They rebooted it?
They did.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Did you see the new one?
I did. I thought it was good, but then Corona, and so everything just kind of stopped.
Oh,
yeah. So I don't know if it's going to come back after that or not.
I don't know. I don't know if it will or not.
Usually it's the other way around where I've seen things and she hasn't. So
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will have to watch.
You have to start the original Party of Five. It was great.
Okay.
It was.
I know everyone that was in it, but
it was so well written. I mean, the storylines, and it was just one of those shows that you feel really lucky to be a part of. I was very excited to get to be there in the beginning. Kind of the same thing with, I just finished an episode of This Is Us. I don't know if you guys watched that show.
Yep.
But that's another one that I feel so lucky to have gotten to do something on it, because it's such a great show and so well written and so well acted. And it was just phenomenal. It was a great experience.
And a lot of the stuff that they reference, because they're from Pittsburgh, the three are from Pittsburgh.
That's right. Yeah.
A lot of it's true. Like they do a really good job of when they talk about Pittsburgh, they've done their research. They know what they're talking about.
Wow.
Like
that's impressive.
When Jack went to that record store, like that's a real record store.
Is it?
They've done a good job with that. So
that's cool. That's good to hear. Yeah. It's a neat show.
Very good. I like how they're doing, because we've talked about this with, General Hospital hasn't addressed COVID. And we're okay with that because it's an every single day thing. But like how This Is Us is doing it is perfect, because they're just showing people living with it. Like,
right. Yeah.
So it's there, but it's not.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not all pervasive. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. It's a tough call. Because on one hand, I think we want to escape it, but then it's also part of our reality. And then there's also a safety issue of being on set. So I think in the beginning, I don't know if you guys know this, but I've been doing this show called The Bay with a lot of other actors from General Hospital and other soaps too. And this summer we shot the 6th season. And I think we really struggled with how to do it safely. And so they ended up incorporating the storyline into, and it ended up incorporating COVID into the storyline. And we just had to, because at that time when we were shooting, we didn't really know enough about it yet, and there weren't those safety measures in place yet where we had access to regular testing and everything like we do now. So it was tricky. So we had to do a lot of scenes with masks on and shields and the whole deal. But and also I don't think they realized that it was going to go on this long, like COVID was going to last this long. And so it was a nice little tidbit that, the show could reflect on, but then we kind of just assumed that, well, then it'll be over then, and it's not. No. Here we are. Yeah. Not yet. One day, we hope. Yeah.
Well, you started to watch The Bay a little bit, because it's one of those ones. So when COVID happened and General Hospital went off, we started watching Night Shift. Neither one of us had watched Night Shift. And so we made it through the first season. We still have to watch the second. That's when we found out about The Bay, but not all the episodes are on Amazon, but I think they just became available on
Popstar.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I don't think they realized that that people were going to want to go back and watch the earlier episodes. And so they weren't all available on Amazon anymore for whatever reason. They had been, but they had been taken off. So I don't know what the deal was that they made with Popstar, but they were able to get the rest of the episodes or the rest of the seasons up. So, and then soon I think season 6 will be available on Amazon as well. But right now it's just Popstar.
I just started in season 5 so that I could see
did you?
What you were up to and, know some current stuff instead of just sitting here talking about Karen the entire time. But I didn't really get into it. So
it seems like a great cast though. I mean, it's like a dream team. It's kind
of cool because they've taken kind of soak people from all of the shows and put them on this one show. And so it's kind of fun. We've all run in the same circles, and, there have been several people that I'd worked with in the past. So it was great to see them. And then it's funny how it came about was that they tried to get me on the show back in 2012, and they contacted me. Gregory Martin, the creator and director, contacted me on Facebook or something. And I totally dismissed him because I was like, who's that? Like, contacting me about doing a show on the internet? At the time, it seemed so crazy because nobody was really doing that, So I totally dismissed him. And then several years later, I guess it was 2019, he reached out to me again. He was like, hey, just trying you again. We've won several Emmys now. And Wendy Rich is working with us. So Wendy Rich, who was the executive producer of General Hospital, ended up working with the Bay. And once I found that out, I was like, oh, okay, it's legit. So they kind of pulled me out of retirement. And then, once I started working again, I felt like I was at home, and so kind of pulled me back out of my nursing world and got me back into acting again, which I'm so grateful for.
So for those that don't know what the Bay is, can you give us like a quick synopsis or whatever?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I don't know the early parts of it, but it's a show that's centered around this very wealthy family in this fictitious city called Bay City. And I think it's sort of loosely based on like Santa Barbara area. But the Garretts are a very wealthy family in this Bay City area. They own everything, and they're they're the mayor, and they kind of are a big deal in the city. And then, there's everybody in the show is sort of connected to the family in one way or another. A lot. It goes very deep. I don't even know what all the relationships are. There's like, cousins upon cousins and aunts and uncle, like they all come back to that Garrett family. But I was brought on to service this storyline as a doctor. And I guess that the story goes is that Gregory Martin was a big fan of GH, and he was a big fan of mine, and used to run home and watch after school every day. And it was like, nobody could bother him. And he was so into it. So when he wrote this character, it was a kind of a tribute to my character on General Hospital. And that's why he named her Dr. Cates. So
Aww.
Yeah, it's like a little tribute to my character on General Hospital. So that was cool.
It's like a little Easter egg, because you might have new fans that don't even realize, don't know, that's what it was.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. Yeah. And it wasn't so obvious where it was like, well, here's Dr. Wexler, it's, he incorporated Cates in there as my married name. So that was kind of just a little hint, Yeah. So it's been fun.
Excuse me.
So
technically you were divorced when you came on the Bay, like you and Jagger were divorced. And
right. Yeah. Which isn't, so I'm not supposed to be my character from General Hospital. So it was just like a little tribute. So yeah, there was no real reality from General Hospital to that. And to be honest, I have no idea what happened from the time I left General Hospital because I know they took my character and spun off Fort Charles. And at the time I wasn't able to do it because I believe it was, 97 or something like that. And it was my busiest year ever. And so I was doing a lot of other things and wasn't available to do that. So they spun that off with another actor. But ironically, my husband ended up playing one of the third Karen Wexler's love interest.
Oh my gosh.
Later
that's so
on.
funny.
So he was Joe Scanlon, I think was his name.
Okay. Yeah.
One of the Joe Scanlons. I think he was like the third Joe Scanlon or something. And then he was with the third Karen.
Okay.
So I knew a little bit about what was going on then, but it was like a whole different storyline. It was like, I don't know, not even it didn't seem to have any relevance to stuff that I did, on General Hospital. So
from what I've read, it seems like they changed the character with each actress. Like it was a different, same name, but different.
Yeah. Right. I never watched it. I looked at it for a second and then realized it wasn't really all the same players, and I didn't have interest in it then.
Yeah. It's interesting. I never did see it except for when he was on a couple episodes I watched, but
So how did you guys meet then if it wasn't on Port Charles?
We met doing a pilot called Forbidden Island in New Zealand. And we were both cast as characters in that show. And funny enough, it didn't get picked up, but it ended up becoming the series Lost, because Lost basically stole the idea from our show. And there was a lawsuit and everything. It was crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we did the original Lost. We met doing that in New Zealand.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, though.
I know. We were bitter about it for years. Honestly, they did it a whole lot better. And, they had a lot more money to put into it. So, it's what it is. But it was a fun show. It was really cool and very, very dark and twisted. And it was written by somebody who used to write for Twin Peaks. And so had that kind of element to it, just like Lost. I mean, if you'd seen Lost, it's a lot like that, weird things happening and very bizarre, like things coming out of nowhere where you don't understand it. And it was cool. It was a really cool show.
Was it like a New Zealand based one, or was it just being filmed there? So it was like
it was just being filmed there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was originally produced for UPN, which was a network that I guess became the WB and then CW.
Okay.
So there's the long lineage of networks, but it was produced by Aaron Spelling's company.
Okay.
So yeah. So after I did 90210, I did another show for Spelling, and then he put me on this show. Or the Lost show. Forbidden Island. That's what it was called.
I'm really surprised that didn't get picked up with Aaron Spelling. I mean,
I know. Yeah. We really thought it would. I mean, it was really well done. Didn't quite have the production value that Lost ended up having, because I'm sure they spent 10 times the amount of money that went into our show, but it was a really interesting show. It's very well done.
What could have been?
I know, right? You never know. Just things happen for a reason, and for whatever reason, that was just not meant to happen. So
you've met your husband, so that worked.
Yeah, that worked.
You had actually had to work with him longer. Might not have worked out so well.
True. That is very true. Maybe things wouldn't have worked out so well. Who knows?
You never work together now?
No, I don't think we've ever worked on anything together ever again.
Okay.
No. Yeah. He does a lot of voiceover stuff and theater, and that we work together at home doing self-tapes and things like that, but that's about it. Yeah. So we kind of run in different circles.
What do your kids think about you going back into acting?
Funny enough, they never really realized that I was an actor. So it was, what was it? It was, I guess I started working on something on the Bay, and they were like, what are you doing? Like, you're a nurse. Like, what are you doing? And then I sat down with my daughter shortly after doing that. And I said, no, I used to be an actor, and this is what I used to do. And I sat down with her. There's a movie on Amazon that I did several years ago called The Inheritance. And it's a movie about this girl who grows up. She wants to be a horseback rider, and she lives with this very wealthy English family that's now in America. And my daughter loves horses. So I thought this is a good introduction, to show her. She was riveted. Absolutely. Just like, she kept looking at the TV and then looking at me, and she was like, oh my gosh, Mommy, this is so cool. And then after that, she, kept saying, you shouldn't be a nurse anymore, Mommy. You should be an actor. So it's really cute.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. And then I think my son, he's older. So he's gotten his comments from his friends who have found me on YouTube. And so that's been a little interesting because, there's obviously a lot of stuff up on YouTube that's probably not appropriate for his friends to be watching,
Yeah.
So they find that stuff.
That, yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Well, your poor son having to deal with that.
I know. He deals with it well. He just lets it roll, but it's out there.
As long as they're not being vulgar,
No, they're not. And I mean, luckily, could have been a lot worse. Luckily it was General Hospital and it's network television, so you can't go too far. I mean, I was always full clothed, even though I was a stripper. So, it's not that bad. Could have been a lot worse if I had like nudity in a movie or something.
Right.
It was out there, but no, I never did that.
Do you have anything else that you would like to share with us? About, you're working on the Bay, people can find you, what you're up to.
Yes. I am, let's see, what did we not cover? Well, I have that episode of This Is Us coming out soon. I don't have a release date yet because with COVID, it's been really touch and go with, getting the shows done. So I think they're actually still trying to finish the episode that I'm in, and they're a little bit behind schedule. So I'll probably post it on my social media, as soon as I find out. And I can be found on, Instagram at Cari Shayne, CariShayne. And, I don't really do much else. I mean, Twitter occasionally because the Bay asks me to, but I'm not a Twitter person really. So, occasionally I'll post some things on Twitter, but mostly Instagram. So yeah, I'll put that up there whenever I find out whenever that's coming out. And then hopefully we'll be, doing more of the Bay as soon as we get the current episodes out there. And I'm producing a TV series that hopefully will be for a streaming platform. So that's been kind of a new role for me. It's been a lot of fun. Right now it's called Bunko. It may change, but it's about a group of women in a small town that get into a whole heap of trouble with each other. But it's kind of a female hangover meets Desperate Housewives kind of show.
That sounds perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really exciting, working on that. Yeah. We'll see where it goes from here.
Oh, that's awesome. That all sounds great. Yeah.
It's good to be back. It's really, really good to be back doing what I love because I really, really missed it. And I think that taking that time away to step out and do something else and even though I love nursing too. There's a lot that I love about it because I'm kind of a real science geek as well, but I'm happy to be getting back to what I really love.
And you could always go back to nursing, as long as you keep.
Well, and I'm actually, I'm still using it. I'm not working as a nurse anymore, but I do still really love teaching and doing things. So my background was in labor and delivery and babies. So I'm in the process of getting certified as a childbirth educator. So it'll still allow me to work with patients and help them prepare for their birth, still do the parts of it that I love and have that connection with people, but without having to commit to a schedule at a hospital because honestly, it's like dealing with the acting thing and then having a job in the hospital. It's been difficult to manage that. So
yeah,
I stepped out.
Oh, that's all good stuff though. I mean,
yeah. So I have another Instagram. If anybody's pregnant and kind of wants to learn about being, getting through their pregnancy and being new parents, I also have an Instagram handle, I guess you call it, called @NurseCari. Is that what it is? Yeah, @NurseCari. And that's all of my kind of nursing stuff. So that's out there
wonderful.
Too. Yeah, it's fun to be able to help people in that way and still feel like I have some information to share and hopefully add value to what they're going through.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Yes, thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm so excited that anybody, even cared about talking about this. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
There's definitely
what are you doing for your birthday?
I don't have any big plans. So last year was the big 4-0. This year it's just another year. So
yeah. Well, that's great though. We have to celebrate every year that we're alive.
Yes, yep. That's true. But thank you so much for talking to us. 13-year-old me is streaming right now. So I really appreciate it.
And I I wasn't going to tell you, but then I realized I really had to because I did the same thing with Stone or when we interviewed Michael.
Yeah. I heard that. I listened to that episode. I was like, I hope she tells her.
And I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to talk this time then. So
one day I will surprise you with something, but I'll regret it.
You will. You'll talk the whole episode because I'll just sit here and be like, oh my
gosh. Yeah, I heard you say that in that episode and I thought, I hope she tells her because she's going to be mad.
I did. Yes. Thank you.
But yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate this. And hopefully we get a chance to reconnect and good luck with everything that you have coming up too.
Thank you. Anytime, girls, whenever you want to chat, I'm here.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. You too. Bye.
Okay, so I need to watch more Karen.
Oh, yeah.
I already knew this, but I need to watch more. I need to watch Party of Five.
I can't believe.
I don't remember why I didn't.
I cannot believe you didn't watch that show. It was so good.
Because it was on when I was in high school, so I don't know why I didn't.
I don't know what's wrong with you either. I don't know how to help you.
I didn't say anything was wrong with me.
Something's definitely wrong with you.
That I didn't watch it. I know.
It was so good.
Well, I just finished up one show on Netflix, so maybe I'll start this now.
It made me sad, though, whenever she said they couldn't hang out the same once it got popular. Because I watched it from day one. To me, it was always popular, and people should have left them alone so they could continue having their dinners.
Well, there's the story that the Friends cast says that their producers took them all to Vegas or something and said, enjoy this now because your lives will never be the same.
Oh.
And
they were right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they could not get together for dinner and stuff like that. I mean, people still go crazy whenever they see them together.
That's so sad.
You know, and that's the thing. Like, if you see, I mean,
I totally get, again, just doing this interview, totally get the idea that you want to be like, oh my gosh, but you have to respect,
especially if it's a surprise that you're not expecting to see them and you're like, oh my gosh.
Right.
But it was so funny because I remember I was walking into work one day and I worked in a building where one of our local radio stations were. And do you know who Dave Foley is?
No.
Okay. He was on News Radio. He was on Kids in the Hall. Like, he's a comedian.
Okay.
He walked out as I'm walking in. I was just like, hey, good morning. Cause I say hi, good morning to everybody.
Right.
And after I walked, I was like, that was, and I'm walking upstairs and I'm like, and the receptionist is like, what's wrong? I'm like, I think I just walked by Dave Foley. And she's like, oh yeah, he was downstairs doing the radio show. I'm like, oh, okay.
But see, he probably appreciated that response because you were nice, but you weren't like on top of him trying to get his autograph or hang out with him. No.
Yeah.
You have to respect the privacy.
Yeah.
I totally get being a fan because I just
Could you imagine being in labor though and having a baby and she's there?
That might have been a good distraction though. I wish I would have had her whenever I was in labor because instead of focusing on the pain, I would have been like, so, episode blah, blah, blah. What were you thinking as you were stuck on the island with Jagger and Jason? It would have been the best delivery ever.
True. She'd be like, I need to concentrate right now. So
I'd be like, no, pay attention up here. Everything down there is handled. Come on. Right. I need some Karen conversations. That's funny.
Why didn't we think to ask her what the craziest fangirl while she was helping? But you know, I feel like she probably wouldn't have answered just because privacy. Like, right. Obviously she's not going to drop names, but
yes,
still, I bet that would have been a good story. Sorry. Okay. So we hope that you enjoyed this,
half as much as we did because, oh my gosh,
I don't think we stopped smiling the whole time.
No, she was so sweet.
Very, very sweet, very kind, very generous. So check her out. We'll put all of her, she really only does Instagram. So we'll put her Instagram handle in our show notes and make sure to join us on Monday as we recap this week's shows.
Have a good weekend.
And we'll meet you at the pier.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's show, we invite you to go to pier54podcast.com to subscribe on your favorite platform. Don't forget to leave us a review. And you can also follow us on many social media channels. Just search for Pier54 Podcast. Also, we are not perfect, so if there is something that we missed or messed up, just let us know by emailing us at pier54podcast@gmail.com.